was your question?
Mr. Captain, you admit that the Bible is very complex and difficult to interpret, that you made a mistake about what happened on Saturday, that it was spiritual and not physical, even though you guaranteed it would be physical. How can you now, in good conscience, tell your followers that the world will end in October when you have made a mistake interpreting the Bible already?
I have never told anybody that I'm infallible, not at all. But his proofs are infallible because they come right out of the Bible. The signs that he has given, like great pride as a evidence of we're on the threshold of judgment, or the fantastic increase in wickedness, and so on. All of that they are signs that God gives, and that is very trustworthy. But what I say is not. I'm not infallible. That's why I again and again in a way I'm kind of smiling. So I've been in churches all my life. I have never heard a pastor. This sounds strange, like I'm picking. I'm not. I have many pastors who are friends, and but I've never heard a pastor from the pulpit ever say, I used to teach this, and now, no, that's not true. Dr. Spencer did tell me. He's dead now, so I can talk about him. He's a friend, and we used him in family radio for quite a few years. We still use him because, oh my, the Lord had really laid his hand on him. But except for Dr. Spencer, I have never heard a pastor ever say, I was mistaken when I taught you last year. And now I've done a lot more study in the Bible, and God has opened my eyes, and now I want to teach you this. Now, there may be some, but I haven't heard them. And yet, there isn't any student of the Bible that can say, I have never made a mistake, or I only remember one mistake. If we're learning, of course, we're going to teach as God opens our eyes, and then later on we may say, oh my, I said that back then and it wasn't correct. And if you listen to all the family radio, you'll find me here saying again and again, I used to teach this and now I know it was wrong. And I don't hesitate because it's my ego is not at stake. And what difference does it make? All I have to do is be honest, that's all. I'm honest, trying to be honest with the Bible. I'm honest with those who are listening to me.
And you have not publicly apologized. Are you prepared to do that at all?
What was that question?
Are you willing to publicly apologize for what you said about May 21, the character?
For your mistake.
For your mistake.
I can, if people want me to apologize, I can apologize. Yes, I did not have all of that worked out as accurately as I should have, or I wish I could have had it. That doesn't bother me at all because I'm not a genius, and I pray all the time for wisdom, and when I make an error, then I say yes, I was wrong. I have said that already more than several times tonight. I was wrong. It was to be understood spiritually, not physically, and yet the sense of it is still the same. That judgment has come. The world is now under judgment where it was not prior to May 21. Spiritually, there's a big difference in the world that we can't detect at all with our eyes, but we can know from the Bible.
Excuse me? Excuse me? Why did you think there's so much attention from international media for this story? Why do you think there's so much international attention from the media for this story from May 21? Is that your question? Yeah. Why is there so many people? Why is there so many people here right now?
Well, I know this. God has commanded us to go out into the world and warn the world of Judgment Day. We in Family Radio or other organizations that are normally much smaller than Family Radio, other people don't have as large a pulpit as we have, or been able to do as much as we have, but together, whatever we have done a fairly good job. But God has to do the perfect job, and so He utilizes the media to fill in the gaps where we haven't done it. I can tell you, from one standpoint, I thank God for the media because of all your interest and concerns and there's been articles in newspapers and in the internet and TV and so on, and between what you have done as well as what we have done, the world really knows that we're there. There's another factor in this, of course, and that is man was created in the image of God. The Bible teaches that. Every one of us. You may not know that, or you may never think about it, but you are. We're all created in the image of God. Intuitively, whether we try to be an atheist or an evolutionist or an agnostic or this denomination or that denomination makes no difference. We all know deep in our hearts, we have to someday answer to God. There's finally a final reckoning, because we all know that there is such a thing as sin. We can argue that, oh, not me, I never sinned. We're lying to ourselves. We all know that. We all know that murder is sin. We all know that lying is sin. We all know that sexual immorality is sin. We really know that. We can try to talk around it, but we really know that. And we also intuitively know there is a God. All you have to do is start. Oh man, it really is amazing when man talks about this world developing over billions of years through adaptation. When I think of the millions of life forms, as complicated as they are, and no evolution has ever been able to show the evolution of a fly, or the evolution of a slug, or the evolution of a tiger, or anything else. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. But and every one of you have a fancy camera, real fancy camera. And what happened was that somebody threw some pieces of metal out there about 1 million years ago, and that slowly through the years, that adapted itself until finally you were out there one day and you picked up that beautiful camera that somehow came into existence all by itself. And you're saying, you're nutty, man, you're crazy. Yeah, that's a crazy idea. How did that come into existence? How did that cell phone come into existence? Somebody designed it. Somebody fabricated it and tested it and so on. It's all done by activity, by people. And the same way we're created in the image of God. How did that fly come into existence, or that whale, or that tiger, or whatever? God designed it, except He's God, and all He has to do is speak, and there it is, because He is God. But nevertheless, there had to require a designer, a maker, and who cares for this world that keeps going? God.
How much money did you, Stanley Radio, raise as a result of this campaign, and do you intend to return it?
How much money has Family Radio raised for May 21?
Yes.
And
I really don't know. I do know. We have had two sources of income. We've had the gifts from our listeners, and we try to make those get as much mileage as we can, because they're not giving it really to Family Radio. They're really giving it because of their desire to propagate the gospel, as every believer is commanded to do. And we are simply emphasizing that we can do this more efficiently. We can get way more mileage out of $1 with our with our radio stations and so on, the way we are doing it, than you ever could for yourself.
And do you intend to return that money now?
But the other source...
Sir, do you intend to return that money now?
I'm sorry?
Do you intend to return that money now?
do you intend to return the money?
No, that money is still going out. We still are continuing in the business. We're not at the end. Why would we return it? We're not out of business. We've learned now that we still have to go another 5 months. And
will you return it in October? Do you intend to return the money in October?
Why would we return it? It's
Because
been
all of it-
given in order to get the gospel. People always come back to money. It was given to get the gospel out, and we're spending it as wisely as possible. And maybe by October 2021, we might only have $10 left.
Will you dissolve the company in October?
I'm sorry?
Will you dissolve the company in October?
Will we dissolve Family Radio in October 21?
If it's the end of the world, God is going to dissolve it. I'm not the CEO. Haven't you heard me say that again and again? I am not the CEO. I'm a servant of God working here, and God is the CEO. We look to Him all the time for guidance, and He is the one who opens doors. I can tell many stories of marvelous open doors that God has given, and I often think, who are we? Who am I? I'm just an ordinary human being. I've had a little college education, but then I look at Family Radio, and we're broadcasting all over the world in 75 different languages, and how did all this happen? How does it happen? And we've got a 300,000 kilowatts AM station in a 300 kilowatt station in mainland in Taiwan, broadcasting to mainland China. The largest station in the United States, AM station, is 50 kilowatts. We have a 300 kilowatt that we broadcast on. We have a 600 kilowatt that we worked out in cooperation with the Taiwan broadcasting people that broadcasts to Indonesia and to the Philippines. How did all that happen? Who are we? We're nothing. But God opens a door here, and He provides an individual there when we need them, and from time to time, as we see an opportunity, because we are trying to magnify or make as much hay as we can with everything that we're doing, and if we see a possibility, say, of selling this station and buying this one and reach more people and come up with some cash in the meantime, well, we've done that from time to time, and that also goes into the hopper. It didn't come from the listeners at all. Not at all. None of it. But it's all going out for the same purpose, to get the gospel out. None of it. We wrote into our articles of incorporation when we first started that if we ever sold a station at a profit, no member of the board of directors, present or future, could ever get 5 cents for themselves. Not one of us has ever gained a chunk of money out of Family Radio. Every nickel has been spent as fairly as possible, as efficiently as possible. And all you have to do is look at the records of what's happening in the business world or the political world or the school world. I don't care where you look. And everybody's out this way all the time. All they're looking at is greed. And you don't see that in Family Radio at all. We, in fact, as president, if I ever saw anybody that was beginning to get a little greedy, I'll tell you, they were dealt with immediately, because we don't do that. We just don't do that. We're in the business of serving the Lord, not of garnering anything for ourselves.
What kinds of Christians do you believe are going to ascend in the rapture, and what's going to become of all the Jews and Hindus and Muslims in the world?
What is the question?
The question is, what's the true belief, and will everyone else be left behind?
Of other religions.
Of other religions like Jews or Hindus or Muslims or anything else.
What kind of Christian do you believe will ascend in the rapture, and what will become of all the others? The fact is, there's only one kind of people that will ascend into heaven, and that has nothing to do with any religious. They could be a Hinduist, they could be a Muslim or whatever. If God has saved them, they're going to be caught up. And God, in fact, it's interesting this is very significant in the Bible again and again when it talks about the end of the world. It says, the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. That's repeated several times. And that has some very important spiritual significance, because the last are those who know the least about the Bible, who have probably never heard the Bible before until they got the message through the media and through family radio activity that May 21 is Judgment Day. And they got that came from the Bible, and so they have heard the word of God, and if God has decided to save them, and God knows whom He's going to save, they don't have to know all about the Bible. They don't have to know about all the things that we learn in the Scriptures. They just have to know God has spoken, and oh God, have mercy on me. God have mercy on me. And that can be of anyone at all. It isn't and in fact, those who are the first, they're the ones that have had the Bibles all their years, and they don't have an understanding of the truth of the Bible. They have their own understanding. Have you ever wondered? Just think about this for a moment. There are many denominations, and everyone, if you happen to be a Roman Catholic, you are convinced this is the best church in the world. If you are a Presbyterian, this is the best church in the world. If you are Seventh-day Adventist, this is the best church in the world. That is, everyone belongs to the denomination that they belong to because they believe that is the best. If you sit down and read their understanding, the Roman Catholics have their understanding of the Christian religion, the Methodists have theirs, the Presbyterian has theirs, the Mormons have theirs, and so on. And you'll find that not any two of them are in agreement. They all have all kinds of different conclusions. Yet they all claim it all came from the Bible. So what does that tell you? At most, only one of them could have it accurate, because God doesn't talk out of both sides of His mouth. It just shows that what the churches call their Christian religion isn't necessarily from the Bible. Maybe it started, but their theologians have twisted it a little bit here and there to make it satisfactory to what they wanted to believe, and so they ended up with an entirely different Christian religion, or substantially different than all the other denominations. And so it tells you, that's why in family radio, if you have listened at all, what do we emphasize? The church says this, or the church says that? No way. The Bible, the Bible, the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. It all comes from the Bible, and only that Bible. And we just have to keep studying the Bible and knowing that every word in the original language came from the mouth of God.
You just spoke about how powerful and influential Radio 1 has become, which is precisely why you do have some responsibility. So my question is, what advice do you give those followers who did take you literally and spent everything they had and are worried about how they're going to survive between now and October 21st?
You know, the fact is that just as I'm talking very candidly to you, we're on the radio right now. There are probably more people listening to the Open Forum tonight than have ever been, because we've had so much publicity about family radio, and we haven't. We've told them ahead of time that we're going to have this kind of a meeting here on this evening, and so they're all hearing exactly what you're hearing.
Well, what advice do you give those who did take you literally and gave away all their money or donated it to family radio, and now may not have the funds to survive between now and October 21st?
How to survive?
What advice do you give your loyal followers who may have given up everything they have because they took the prediction of
We're
living?
not advising. Please understand, we don't advise anybody what to do without. We're not in the business of financial advice.
I'm not saying you told them what to do, but because they did believe that the end of the world was within this past Saturday, they gave up all their work and possessions and their money, and now you have a different interpretation that focuses on the spiritual. So what do you tell those followers who did not understand that, as you did not understand?
Let me answer it this way. We just had a great recession. There are lots of people that lost their jobs. There are lots of people that lost their houses. Lots of people, not just a few, but lots of people. Lots of people had this and that, and somehow they all survived. They all had maybe a cousin helped them, or a brother, or a sister, or the city helped them, or maybe they had to cut their income, their living expenses way down. Some cases that was really very severe. Well, now I'll tell you what has happened to the average person that has been faithfully listening to family radio isn't nearly as grievous as it has happened to countless people during this present recession, where they've lost their homes and so on and so on. So please, people cope, and we're not in the business of giving any financial advice. We're in the business of telling people, look, there's someone you can talk to that can maybe guide you, maybe help you. That's God. Come boldly to the throne of grace. Pray without ceasing. I'll tell you, it's wonderful. It's wonderful when we get to a point in our life where a lot of times the best times of our life is when our back is against the wall and we don't know where to go, what to do. And so finally you're pleading with God and pleading with God. Oh, God, have mercy. Have mercy. I don't know what to do. And that can be just the time that you're really being drawn to God like you've never been. Believe you me, God is very real, and I can personally testify. I've had many times in my life where I didn't know what to do next, and yet I pleaded and talked with God and prayed, and the next thing I would see a little door open here or a little door open there, which I never expected.
I agree with you. So I think that what they have to do, you're saying, is pray, become self-reliant, and not rely on someone else's information because it may be incorrect, but just to go within and trust themselves, perhaps? Is that the advice, maybe?
Well, no, they're not. That's the point of prayer. You don't rely on your own understanding. That's the point of prayer. You're relying on God to help you. And excuse me. Now, look, I'm praying to God. I don't have a job. So I'm lying in bed. Lord, oh, have mercy. I need a job. Lord, have mercy. I need a job. I've got a family to support. But boy, this bed is comfortable. I don't want to get out of this bed. You know, that's pure hypocrisy. We don't go to the Lord like that. We go to the Lord saying, "Oh Lord, I'm searching. And have mercy. Is it possible that as I search and as I do this and that maybe there is a solution?" But and maybe God wants me to sweat for a while. Yes.
Yeah.
Safe to say that the mainstream population that heard about May 21st didn't believe it. It didn't happen. Now they say, see, this was ridiculous, and at best, sort of a misguided prediction, or at worst, some kind of scam. Does it worry you that you have hurt the credibility or made a mockery in some ways of religion?
Oh, no, I don't. Excuse me, just like what I've said before. There's no pastor in the world that's not the right statement. Most pastors would never admit they make a mistake because they're trying to preserve their own credibility in the eyes of those who are listening, or maybe they insist they're maintaining the present credibility of the Bible. But the fact is they're not. And all I can do is go to the Bible and very humbly say, look, I have done some more study, or somebody has sent me an idea about this verse, and I've checked it out, and I find that I have to make a change in it. That doesn't hurt the credibility of the Bible at all. It just shows us that we have feet of clay, that we're not perfect, and God has to keep opening our eyes. And you know, the big God says again and again, He resists the proud and He gives grace to the humble. There's verse after verse in the Bible where God really resists those who come in their pride. And there's nothing more. There's one thing that should be seen in everyone who claims to be a child of God is humility. Humility. I'm nothing. Whatever I know or whatever I'm doing, I have to credit God altogether. I pray again and again. There's a verse in Philippians 2 where it says, work out your own salvation. And that is the salvation that God has provided. You work it out. And then it says, for it is God who causes you to will and to do of His good pleasure. So even when we do something well done, I can't take any credit. Oh, Lord, I thank you. I thank you that you guided me this way. I'm nothing. I'm nothing. And that's, I'll tell you, I can recommend this to anybody. It's a wonderful way to live when we walk humbly before God. Because you're never trying to show how smart you are or how wise you are. You are simply giving all the credit to God, and that's where it should go.
Then why not stop predicting the end? Why not stop?
Now, my dear friend, I'm sorry that we are at the end of our time, and I can't entertain any more questions. I thank you for being so kind to me. You haven't asked me any embarrassing questions at all. If you thought you could try to find one, at least I haven't. I've been grateful for all your questions, and I just hope that you are faithful in reporting honestly, altogether honestly. If you could even do that favor for me, I would be very happy. Good night.